Rudolph is on, well in bed, like it hasn't been a whole week. The Pyram maidens. One to scare, and send the other to call a doctor in time. Then you've seen it. The biggest drama starts only because the guy decided to wake up after a 7-day coma. But, to a general surprise, Rudolph stays calm, ignores the chaos, and tells the crowd not to worry, because he knows he won't die. Apparently, he's annoyed by all the noise that rolled around when he opened his eyes. Soon a doctor arrives to examine him, ask the basic questions like age and name. The guy replies that he is Prince Rudolph and Baltic, 14 years old. The doctor asks him if he remembers the past, and he says that he is the 4th prince of the Baltic Empire, who belonged to the emperor. Then the guy releases the verb, says that the mother just had to enter the imperial family in man. Don't stop there, they admit the Kannat brothers and relatives hate him because he is the lover's son, and according to him, that's why they tried to poison him. The doctor listens to everything and concludes that there is nothing physically wrong with the child, and recommends that he rest a little more. As soon as the news, the prince spreads stable, everyone leaves the room. And when the place gets empty, the guy realizes that these employees are probably spies, loyal not to him, but to the queen and Half-Simon. At this point, he understands that he is just an annoying brat for the royal family. The scene returns to the maids who are still trying to understand what is happening. They whispered that it is strange that Rudolph is not going crazy, especially after he almost died days ago. And you still have avenues for everything, since the side is in the palace, no one knows what he is thinking. But for those in your situation, the anxiety should be there on the roof. With assassins everywhere and no allies. Another attack could take place at any moment. I mean, the kids chipped. Back in the room, Rudolph seems to have everything under control. He confidently mutters that he has at least 10 more years of life ahead of him. After all, he was sent 300 years by the past. And with this historical knowledge, you know exactly what ahead. It turns out that when the prince was almost dying from the poison, the memories of the past life came back with everything. He remembers that, in the future, far from the same timeline, he has lived as a simple peasant in a rural area. And when that life ends, the next thing she knew, she was born into royalty. It's ironic for the hell of it, especially since I hated Prince Rudolph in the past life. That brat Pyron with anything, shouted with the servants and tantrums for any doubt. Now, reflecting, the Mick admits that he is talking about himself, his version before the memories returned, was just a selfish and cruel prince. While thinking about how to redeem himself from that past, a hooded guy enters the window out of nowhere. And then, shovel, we go back to the beginning. A knife pointed at the prince's chest. The invader asks why he is not resisting. But before the knife falls, the door opens, and the servants enter with an archer. An arrow crosses the killer's arm, which he realizes that he was discovered, and runs through the broken window. The prince sends the servants to run after, but they refuse, saying that the priority is their safety. When the danger disappears, he has the disaster and leaves the room. Why do you need to think? The scene shows him lying on the bed with a satisfied face. He knows that he survived because he relied on the memories of the past life. He lets out a relieved sigh, but admits that, even prepared, that was the scariest moment of his life. Having someone ready to slit your throat at the age of 14 isn't exactly the best experience. No matter how calm, think about the book you read in the past life. It seems that it is real, not just any book. It has detailed reports of events from 300 years ago, which are now his gift. The book shows every important result, every assassination attempt, even an intoxication that almost killed him. He remembers that they are the records of the old war, his favorite book in the past life. It says that the tyrant died young, at 25. According to the book, Rudolph goes crazy after so many assassination attempts. Paranoia grows, and taken by anger, the cruel tyrant kills all the brothers, consolidating himself as an evil emperor. But he's in no mood to let this happen. He is determined to survive and prove that the world is wrong. He really believes that having the memories of the future means that he can change what comes next. With this conviction, he gets up and goes to the drawer, pulls a small chest, and holds a coin inside. Just the touch already brings a blurred memory of a girl, someone important in the history of Rudolph. And that's where he promises. It will start by identifying your enemies, and when you do this you will eliminate them all and solve the problems that plague the palace. The next scene shows him asking the head of the maids, Mrs. Tapple, to bring the Scorpio Palace log book, which is a book with all the financial records. The order takes her by surprise. He is clearly confused by the sudden change, and asks why he is interested in this out of the blue. The prince apologizes for performing all the responsibilities on her so far, but now that they will be 15 years old, he has decided to start taking care of official business alone. The maid tells her to relax, leave the chores for her, and take breaks, especially after being almost killed, but he insists that he is fine and asks for the book again. Do you want to give a brutal touch to your recap arts, cheer you up, and leave everyone speechless? Create an amazing wallpaper with your favorite character, or even a profile picture that commands respect. Then pay attention. On the Kusapix site, you can create images your way using keywords, or choose from a bunch of ready-made images that are just plain brutal. Do you want anime, manga, or other style? Just choose what you like the most, define the ideal size, and voila, your art is done. Simple, fast, and perfect for your phone or PC to have your personal touch. Log into Hintus, Kusa Pix and start now to create images that are pure style. Link in the description and comment posted. We will come back with the story. Instead of serving, the woman begins to talk about the murderer and the plans to get those who tried to kill the prince. But she does not want to kick out. For him, the mastermind behind the attempt is one of the brothers. And, as always, they will probably blame a poor innocent. Order the book for the third time. Then, out of nowhere, the old maid hugs him. Excuse the prince who thinks that yes, to believe that the brothers are doomed to commit suicide. With tears in her eyes, she tells everything she did for him. She swapped the diapers when the mother did not change. She was on her side from the very beginning. She swears that what happens will always be with him. With trembling sincerity, she begs him to trust her. Listening to this emotional speech, something important finally makes sense. He realizes that he was the tape all along, hiding his true intentions behind false loyalty. According to the book, she is not an ordinary maid. He is a poisonous monster attached to Emperor Rudolph like a shadow, committing all kinds of evils using his name. He is the kind of person who is evil just for the pleasure of being evil. The boy assembles the puzzle quickly. Asking for the record book, he set a trap, and his half-mouthed performance delivered the game. Now there's no doubt that the old woman is dirty, but he knows that he cannot act on impulse. You can't send it without solid evidence. Then put on a sweet face and thank you for the constant support. He plays an innocent child and asks her to help him understand the book. If you have something confusing, she is not very happy, but the decision is already made. Before starting, he orders a decent meal and she responds. The scene jumps to him after eating. He is on high alert, waiting for the old man to act and try to eliminate the evidence of corruption. When he is ready to look at the book, one of the maids leaves something. The strap of the water jug broke and escaped from his hands. The guy makes a good comment that the furniture in the room is also falling apart and he is turning into a bag, but to his surprise, the maid gets scared, lowers his head in panic, clearly afraid of his life. Then remember before the memories come back. He was the kind of arrogant asshole who made even small mistakes to the death for employees. He realizes that everyone is afraid of him. So the maiden's last name is Good, and she introduces herself as Maya. He asks to ask her and the scene. Meanwhile, old Tapple begins to give orders to the bald accountant and the rest of the team, saying that the prince usually walks after the courts. Therefore, they should fix the records before he returns. Of course, she is trying to clean up the mess before he sees. But, just when they think there's time, Rudolph enters the room, releases a cold comment saying that they are late, and asks how long they will make him wait. The calf tries to disguise herself, saying that she just wanted to make sure that the records were perfect for her review. The boy takes the book and takes a good look. On the surface, it seems that they even hid the flaws decently. Everything seems balanced. He doesn't realize anything wrong at that moment, and the maid proudly says that everything is fine. But then he notices something he doesn't hit. The cost with the furniture is totally absurd. It requires explanation. And the old lady gives the excuse that it is a palace, of course it costs more. She says that the emperor gave the Scorpio Palace to Rudolph, and that it is his duty to maintain the dignity of the place. He listens, but he doesn't buy the story. Sarcastically. Ask other employees how often they swap furniture. He's clearly putting it on. The corrupt employee explains that due to the size of the palace, the budget can hardly ever be realized. Then he lets out the right hit. Ask the old lady why, if the budget is spent on furniture, around her is still old and falling apart. He points out the obvious. There is no dignity in the palace. And then, all of a sudden, the guy throws a 300th movement, and the sleeve. Take a record book from the Paratoi's inner pocket. In the greatest calm, ask the old woman if she knows what she is seeing. At first glance, it looks like the same book that he showed earlier. But there is something very wrong there. Half of the budget is still intact. Which can only mean one thing. The sneaky old man tried to pass a fake book thinking he was going to escape. When she realizes she was caught in the act, she spins the game, and demands to know who gave her that book. And at the right moment, Nia enters the room, saying in the greatest tranquility, that it was she who delivered the book. The old woman who still tries to lie says that Mia forged the book. But that Mia arrives prepared shows the official seal of Palace Scorpio. Proving that the book is legitimate, the protagonist confirms that only he has the seal. So even this old man could not fake now that the game ended with the woman's face and despair with a simple order. Rudolph sends the guards to drag the whole corrupt gang away. The old woman loses her arrogance on the spot, and begs for mercy, saying that the bald woman blackmailed her. But the bald thing is not for a joke and counters, calling her a traitor who put him in this confusion from the very beginning. The audacity of this woman is surreal. He still plays a victim, saying that he served Rudolph for 15 years, and that a small mistake should not end. He even curses Rudolph to die miserably, making it clear that in his head, the palace should revolve around him. But the protagonist does not buy this one. And before being dragged away, she tries one last desperate letter. He says he knows who poisoned him, and who sent the killer. Unfortunately for her, our guy does not need this information from her. He read a book that literally shows the future. While the group of bandits asks for forgiveness, the protagonist gives the final blow. He tells Bella that he already knew that she was the one who sent the killer. His expression says it all. She is amazed that he found out. According to the book, she was the reason the guy would go into paranoia and end up killing his own brothers. The plan was never to kill him directly. She was trying to poison him and hire the killers just to drive him crazy, so he can trust her and let her control. The servants in the room can't hide the commotion when he has the corrupt gang kicked out. He makes it clear that he will check all the log books just to make sure there is no hidden fraud. With the risk of being discovered at the top, the rest of the staff is already rushing to work. Everyone saw the old lady being taken, so no one wants to be next. And just when everything calms down, the protagonist lets the pose of the serious executioner escape. He admits that the whole situation was terrifying. And even trying to play the cold tyrant, he's not who he really is. After all, he is still only a 14-year-old boy. Mine is open. Clearly I'm not used to seeing him like this. Rudolph turns to her and says that he has gotten tired of playing tyrant. Thank you with a heart for her for helping. The maid is totally unresponsive with her softer side. Rudolph tells the tin to Maya that, by accusing the old woman of something so serious, she marked herself as a traitor to the other servants. This is your price, to choose what is right instead of staying with the corrupt one. Knowing that this may put her in danger, he officially appoints Maya as his personal maid. She looks really happy and thank you, swearing to give you everything. At this point, our guy has already drawn that the reason Rudolph enters history as a cruel tyrant was because he never had any real allies. Now that he knows this, he has decided to establish a circle of people he can trust, and, perhaps, change the course of history. A month later, Rodolph is good in the palace garden, thinking about life. You realize that if you want more allies, you need to get a girlfriend. At this moment, someone praises the garden, and Maya politely responds, thanking. The girl introduces herself as the eldest daughter of the Fulcrantes family, proud to have been chosen as Rudolph's girlfriend. But there is something strange. His reaction gives everything. He was clearly caught by surprise. Deep down, he knows exactly who this woman is, and marrying her will be the way to death. At first, it's not clear because he feels strange around her. He begins to notice her features, coal-black hair, and piercing blue eyes. There is no denying that she is beautiful, but there is something about her presence that leaves the prince tense. and it does not take him long to withdraw the reason. He remembers his favorite book, where Bellu is the main character. There, Rudolph becomes a feared emperor and dies young. And in this book, this same girl is quoted. Lisbeth opens to the Fulcrontes family, who had a deep and passionate love with Bellu, which began when she gave him a brooch. After a long relationship, they vowed to spend their lives together until everything falls apart. And the culprit of all this, none other than the tyrant Rudolph. The love story turned into a tragedy when Miss Bibit and Bellu were separated by the emperor's interference. In the end, Rudolph died at the hands of that same girl. The Bald Empire. So, getting into this girl basically offers to die. And honestly, the guy just wants to survive. Besides, it's not the kind to pursue someone who is already someone else's. When the girl takes her tea, she notices that the prince is half pale and asks if he is okay. Maya, always helpful. He says he probably didn't sleep properly because of the excitement about dinner. She still insists that he finish the tea before it gets cold. The prince knows he needs to say something. After all, he was the one who asked his father to receive one. Rejecting the girl now would be like sending the father to the beans. So, instead of denying McKen, decide to take it easy. He says that Lisbeth Abard seems surprised, and tries to assure that she does not want to complicate things. She appreciates the kind words, and admits that she has also been surprised by the news, but for her it is a great honor. Still, the guy realizes that he doesn't really care. She's not there of her own free will, she's just following orders. Then he is simple. He says it's totally fine to talk to his dad, and cancel everything. Apparently, she has elder in her heart, not in him. But when he tries to give her another chance, she doesn't accept. Then it accelerates. Maybe it's not that she doesn't want to finish it. She literally can't. He probably needs a strong reason to get out of this. And if she doesn't, she'll be trapped. And in the future, it will be she who will kill him. So, plan B, he'll lie on the bigger wooden face. He starts appearing like a clown, saying that he is a genius at everything, studies, fencing, whatever. And that everyone around him worships a god. Which is crazy since he escaped 2 assassination attempts in the same week. He knows that the role is ridiculous, that even a child knows that there is something wrong. He himself knows that if he continues, he will end up ashamed. And the worst part, it doesn't even work. Amaya enters the conversation and starts congratulating him too. He talks about how he ended the corruption in the palace, and even saved her when she was called a traitor. Now, instead of looking fake, he's just finishing a bigger fame hole. Realizing that Maya is not drawing the obvious hint, he exchanges the strategy. Maybe threatening the girl to give up is the last letter. He directly says that even though he is the 4th prince, he is still a legitimate successor to the throne. Which means he has a view. He comments, well, since one of the maids herself tried to poison him, and put him into a coma. And as soon as he woke up, he has already suffered an assassination attempt. So marrying him is not the safest plan in the world. If she hits, she may also end up in someone's view. He is sure that this excuse is enough to scare her. But to his surprise, the girl is still firm. She says, all proudly, that the Fulcrontes family is no joke when it comes to fighting. She herself is trained with an offer and makes it clear that being afraid of murderers would be a shame for her family reputation. Well, there was his plan B. While he is still trying to bring a new one, she asks him to tell the stories of his childhood. Now he is lost forever, because he does not have a great memory of the time he has to say. Therefore, remember. He remembers saving a girl once, and she gave a coin as a thank you. It's the same coin he's kept in that bow all along. She still takes her with her, but she has no reason to talk about it now. Realizing that he is lost in his thoughts, the girl asks him if he is okay. Rudolph begins to become suspicious. Most of her heavier stories are already known among the nobility, so he thinks she is just asking to laugh at him in the back more. He thinks she will gossip with the old man. But since the goal is to make her hate him, she decides to play forever. So tell everything, pour out all the tragedy that is your life. He is presented again as the son of the emperor and the lover, that is, a bastard. Technically, he shouldn't even be in the line of succession, but the mother begged the king to consider him. He remembers that he once asked his mother why he was born. And she replied on the tin that it was only to enter the imperial family. Basically, he's their ticket to power, nothing more. The sudden promotion of the mother, Diamond, the member of the royal family, irritated the general. But, since they could not insult the prince's mother directly, they unloaded all the hatred on the child. And it wasn't even the rumors or insults that hurt the most, it was the fact that everyone just ignored that it existed. And that loneliness hit harder than any gossip. No one gave him a minimum, not even his parents themselves. Then he started breaking things, giving absurd orders to the servants, throwing a tantrum. Just to make sure someone noticed that he became unbearable on purpose. After pouring all this baggage on Elizabeth, he asks what she thinks of him. And just when he expects to be upset, Maya enters the conversation. She sympathizes because she had never heard about how much our guy suffered injustice. The guy thinks, if Lisbeth sees Beto as a pitiful guy who can't even respect the servants, maybe she finally hates him. And then, for him, it was already the victory. But then he takes a strange course. The girl begins to really cry. He's completely lost. Try to offer a handkerchief, but as you take off your pocket, the coin that your childhood girl has escaped and falls to the floor. Surprised, he takes quick and hides the coin. But the girl notices and asks about her. Rudolph makes it clear that he has nothing to do with her. And so, the conversation ends quickly as they walk next to the carriage. Maya pushes the guy so that he holds the hand of Lesbavid, trying to give a mood, but he is out of the totality. She is still trying to understand that this is the joke that made Liz cry, and she has no idea what is going on in her head. When they arrive at the carriage, he thanks her for the time together, talks about the engagement, asks her to send a letter when deciding, and encourages her to take the time she needs. Deep down, he thinks that it will be easier for her to refuse by letter than face to face. But by her complete disbelief, the girl is released into the greatest tranquility, that she does not need time. Because you've already decided to commit to him. The guy's plan passes through the air in front of his eyes. Maya almost glowed when she heard Lisbeth's answer. As the guy gets stuck wondering how things got out of hand, he realizes that if he continues, he's screwed. While she repeats her whole life, something else is going on between Maya and Lisbeth. The black hair tells Elizabeth for a job well done, and tells her to keep taking care of the boy. Maya just agrees, making it clear that whatever Lisbeth wants, she will make it possible. Apparently, time flew by because it's been 3 days since Rudolph and Lisbeth have gotten engaged. And yet the guy is in a mental spiral. Fully aware that the woman she is with now is the one who will coldly kill her in the future. He knows that he can't just let himself die like that, especially at the hands of the future wife. For now, it is better for him to keep a distance. Mainly because she still doesn't know what she really thinks about him. But this plan lasts shortly. In the next scene, there's Elizabeth herself, taking care of him, as if it were part of the royal duty. The guy's all hurt. It took some ugly hits, but apparently she addressed with the movement of this girlfriend. He not only takes care of injuries, but also feeds himself. He stays there, incredulous, trying to understand why he is in his room. A little misappropriated, letting out a half-mouthed apology, telling him not to worry. He says he's just clumsy and fell down the stairs, hurting himself. Pharaoh Elizabeth does not buy the story, nor does Maya, who enters the room and remembers that she had a meeting with the emperor that day. Because when she sees his condition, she casually asks if he really fell down the stairs. Before answering, Elizabeth joins the pieces and calls blood. He's not fooling anyone. These are not ladder injuries. It's a slap in the face. Now she is furious and wants to know what really happened. If it was just a common meeting, why does it look like he caught a gang? And she's right. It wasn't a silly accident. These marks are from Rudolph's own half-brother, Robin, and his pack. The third prince sent the guards to beat Rudolph to almost death, something that is apparently not new. The guy has been suffering from this Reuben shit since he was a kid. In any decent royal family, laying your hand on another prince gives a death sentence. But here, no one calls our protagonist. The guards beat him madly, while Robin is on the side having fun. We found out that the palace of the Bolt Empire is divided into 13 zones, each of a royal brother. And every time he leaves the Scorpio Palace, it's almost an invitation to catch. At one point, one of Robin's guards asks if Rudolph finally understood his place. In response, the guy spits on the guard's face like a bastard. The guard, not enjoying the disrespect, takes another hit, treating him like a pawn. Returning to the present, Rudolph knows that he cannot inform Elizabeth about all this. So, he maintains the lie, insists that the wounds are not from an attack. Still, she seems really worried. And although a part of him begins to soften, he knows that it is better not to open up with her. Feeling the tension, Mia enters the conversation, and lets out some real ridiculous nonsense to ease the mood. Something about honorable wounds or whatever. Rudolph just looks, trying to understand what he's talking about. She shrugged her shoulders, and says that for a guy who caught the cover-up in the act of corruption, he will definitely not go down without a fight if enemies touch him. And is he not right? Flashback returns, and we see that Rudolph hurts ugly. Robin and his pack clearly think they've been lost for too long, and our boy knows they're racing against time to find the Emperor. Out of nowhere, someone seems to solve the confusion that Robin and the class created. And he's no one, he's the Emperor's butler. The guy demands to know what's going on. Robin is in a panic to see him appear at that moment. The butler looks at the worried Rudolph, and makes it clear that he will not have a way. He simply assaulted the Emperor's fourth son, and, in doing so, threw the king's reputation. Robin tries to disguise himself by saying that it was just a dispute of loving brothers. But the butler tells him to stop the loud conversation. He says that he can keep the weak excuses for later, because now what matters is to get Rudolph to the father on time. Meanwhile, our guy is pleased to see Robin break into a cold sweat, and then everything makes sense. All this was Rudolph's trap. He knew exactly what was going to happen, and made Robin hit him on purpose, only for the steward to turn up and get everything on him. The prince is no longer the same as before. The villain's trajectory began, and with the knowledge he has, the past and the future are fucked. Back in the present, Rudolph no longer calls Robin. What matters is what Elizabeth is thinking. The princess of the bride is relaxing on the sofa. But he leans forward, and asks how the meeting with the Emperor went. What she really wants to know is if her father said anything about her. The third flashback begins and remembers what happened. He apologized to the Emperor for being late, but his father did not go to shit, and even praised him for dealing well with the engagement. Then we cut to a scene that is not comfortable. The Emperor together with Rudolph's mother in a suspicious situation. Even with her son clearly injured, the mother shameless tells the Emperor to forget Rudolph and concentrate on her. It is as strange as it seems. Still, Rudolph thanks his father for his help with the engagement, but the guy doesn't even recognize him. He asks her to leave and remember her place. Back in the present, Rudolph sends Elizabeth's question with a dry answer, saying that the meeting was not new. He's definitely not thinking about talking like his two parents ignored him. Elizabeth begins to get tense. She must feel that there is something that does not count. Rudolph changes the subject and asks her why she is in her room, surprised that she was there when she came in. Elizabeth quietly replies that she came to visit him. The guy needs to understand how couples work. She completely asks if it is so strange that she worries about the boyfriend. Rudolph tries to deny, but it is clear that his presence is moving with him. He keeps remembering that she is the enemy, but still she asks him if he always gets hurt, visibly worried about his condition. Suddenly, she declares that she will visit his room every holy day from now on. The atmosphere changes quickly. Our guy tries to politely refuse, but Maya comes in and says she's worried too. Then she will also enter the daily visits. And that's it, they both agree that this new rule is worth it. Rudolph feels even more cornered, realizing that his fate is in the girl's hands. The scene cuts to the Falcontes family mansion. Elizabeth thanks Mia for everything, saying that being a personal employee of Rudolph helped her get closer to him. She once again asks Mia to keep an eye on him. And the maid promises to do exactly that. It is clear that the Rudolph way won her. Everything about him is in his hand. Maybe Rudolph isn't reading Lisbeth open, because this girl is literally obsessed with him. Maya gets his attention, saying that she is letting her feelings take over, and that it may be time to handle. The servant asks why Elizabeth no longer shows affection if she likes her so much. In his opinion, this must be what confuses the guy so much. Elizabeth panics and asks if he was really that cold to him. Maya is not hiding anything. She says that she was like a statue, and that her words were pure ice. The girl loudly protests, says that she can't help it because she has been in love with him for a long time. Of course Maz realizes that all her confidence just disappeared in front of Rudolph, and raises his doubts about her again. To visit her room every day. which was certainly brave. Even with her courage, she says that this courage has nothing to do with visiting him every day. Holding a sharp sphere in his hand, he says that he does not forgive anything that has happened so far. It is difficult for her to accept how the fourth prince was treated all his life. She swears that she will protect the boyfriend and turn everyone responsible into a piece of junk. But when Lespit Saber starts to get too excited, Amaya cuts the cheap explaining that what happened today was probably something from the third princess. But Robin would never show up at Scorpio's palace, so he doesn't have to play with his bodyguard, and tells him to put the gun down. Maya recalls that since the offer with Tapple, no one else had the courage to disrespect the prince. This seems to make Elizabeth really happy. But out of nowhere, he grabs the maid by the neck and accuses her of wanting to appear. He says that he also wants to be someone special for Rodolphe. Only when you realize that being with him will not only play the role of a bodyguard. Maya comments that her daily visits are now practically meetings. As soon as she hears this, Elizabeth panics and insists that she is not ready for it. But Mia, in the greatest calm, says that she should get used to talking to the prince. Mainly because an important day is coming up. Then he hits her. Her birthday is only a week away. And on that day she will dance with Rudolph. Just thinking about it almost makes her faint. But now he knows that he needs to get ready there, back to the Scorpio Palace. The guy takes the opportunity to rest, and keeps wondering if his girlfriend is really the same girl in the book. Because, honestly, it doesn't seem. There's something strange about her. Even with the cold attitude, she never seemed to see it as an obligation. He also realizes that both the fall of the Tapu and the search for the bride never happened in the timeline from which he lives. Maybe things are already changing. He thinks that if his actions are changing the future. But it doesn't look like it. Whatever he does, he knows Elizabeth is after him anyway. The future in which she becomes his wife is already starting to graduate. And that thought leads you to a darker question. If marriage can't help it, maybe his death can't either. Somewhere else, someone makes a promise to himself. On Elizabeth's birthday, he chases her and will do her at all costs. This guy is none other than the second son of the Sauvelier family, the hero of the book, Bellew. The two lovers are sitting together in the garden of the Scorpio Palace, but Rudolph is clearly somewhere else, immersed in his own thoughts. Trying to figure out if you have any chance to get out of this living confusion. Maya, who is watching him, catches his eye because he is distracted, and asks if he is paying attention to what Eliza is saying. Confused. She tries to concentrate, but Elizabeth notices that her birthday party is coming up in a week. The scene cuts straight to Rudolph's office, where Mia makes it clear that she is not going to the party, as the bride's house, and taking someone from outside the family, would be getting over her lien. It makes sense. I was hoping it would be, but rules are rules. Still, he is filled with confidence, and asks Mia to prepare something before the party. When she asks him what he means, he whispers the plan in her ear, and his face changes on the spot. She is very excited and promises not to disappoint. Rudolph knows what he has to do now. It's time to conquer Alice Elizabeth for real. A week goes by and finally the day of the party arrives. His parents, Mark Douglas and Yoreza, from the Falcons family, receive a future son-in-law at home. Rudolph realizes that his father's aura is scary. But thank you politely for the invitation. His mother takes him to Elizabeth's room. When he knocked to warn that the groom had arrived, Rudolph panicked inside, thinking about how he will act when he arrives. But before you can think any more, the door opens, and there she is, more beautiful than in the dress. His heart is practically coming out of his mouth. Elizabeth, calm and elegant. Thanks for coming to the party, and in desperation, he lets slip that the pleasure was his. Their mother, noticing the strange mood, says that she still has time before the party starts, and suggests that they relax there. She casually closes the door as she leaves, giving them space for both. Alone with the girlfriend, Rudolph forgets everything he had planned. He tries to talk, but the two of them end up talking at the same time, making the mood even stranger. Trying to compose herself again, she says she is beautiful. Elizabeth is surprised, but thank you. In return, she calls him elegant, and tries to hide her face with her hands. Rudolph does not understand this version. She is warm and shy, nothing to do with the Lisp Elizabeth Book Festival, and to top it off, she should be in love with Wilhelm. That doesn't seem true. While lost in his thoughts, Passo approaches the room, but ignores, remembering that he has not yet given the gift he brought. She asks what it is, but before he answers, Someone invades the room out of nowhere. The guy greets Elizabeth as if they were main characters in a romance and starts showering her with praise, saying that she is even more beautiful than he imagined. But Lisbeth doesn't seem happy to see him. And Rudolph is collecting the pieces. This has to be Wilhelm, the hero of the book, the beloved protagonist of the story. Wilhelm says he was worried because he had not heard from her, and insists that the two are destined to be together. He then goes to Rudolph and tells him to leave, accusing him of disturbing something that was meant to be. At this point, Rudolph begins to think that maybe he was wrong all along. Maybe Elizabeth and Wilhelm are really in love, and he was just a pawn in this whole story. But before she gets lost in him, Elizabeth ends everything without hesitation, in a voice colder than ice. He warns the guy to even think about touching Prince Rudolph. She holds her wrist like tearing her arm, and Wilhelm is visibly shaken. Rudolph is also there, completely confused by the scene. Elizabeth doesn't stop there. It unravels all the fantasy that she and Wilhelm are together. She calls him an imposter and warns him again to stay away from her fiancé. The fact that this guy managed to catch someone like Lisbeth with his leaves Wilhelm a little lost. She makes the warning official, saying that she is now a girlfriend of Prince Rudolph. Wilhelm doesn't think so. He gets angry. Rodolph finally begins to gather the facts. What is clearly rolling is not excanteria. It seems that Elizabeth has been maintaining this pain for a long time. She remembers saying that Varala had distorted her memories. And he begins to understand. These memories you quoted were also in the book you read, especially those in childhood. In the version he knows, Rudolph was the villain who tormented her until the old man seemed to save her. Elizabeth thanked him for that. And even though the man was in a hurry, she broke him before parting. They met 10 years later. And this whole story became a favorite of readers. But now none of this hits. Rudolph never did any of this. And how are things? The whole story was probably exaggerated by any writer, because he was not even an emperor at that time. Back in the present, Elizabeth presents a question to Ovlane, something she had asked in a letter. It's about what she gave him the day they met. The confident guy takes a brooch, thinking that he already has everything in his hand, but Lay Avid cuts it off in time. That wasn't his gift. When he tries to remind her of the false memories that never existed, she tells him to stay away. What they had is over. He just tricked her with memories that weren't even real. Destroyed and unmasked, Bill Elm leaves defeated, but warns that he's not done yet. Rudolph, in turn, is going crazy. None of this gets to the story you decorated. He begins to wonder if his actions have already begun to rewrite the past, some butterfly effect that he is getting wrong. The story of the brooch, in particular, seems to have been invented. Here comes the real shock. The fact that Elizabeth introduced herself as a girlfriend of his makes it clear that in this version of the story, Rudolph is the one who is with her, not the thief. And this little change may be the stupidity for Avellini to lose control. Rudolph now understands that even if the Emperor never comes, this guy can come after him out of pure spite. Knowing the danger he poses, he apologizes slightly to Elizabeth for the question he will ask, but she needs to know. Ask what is her relationship with Wilhelm, as there is still time, because the commitment is not final. He can still get rid of Elizabeth and save the skin. Honestly, it's a little hesitant of a girlfriend like that. But Elizabeth is already crying. He apologizes for the cabin earlier and understands that it is normal for him to be suspicious of the guy who confronted them. Rudolph, on the other hand, he mentally prepares to end his engagement, seeing that the perfect excuse, and can claim that she was not loyal. But when you open your mouth, everything is different from planned. Instead, she asks him to explain everything like a husband who really cares. He says the way she's acting shows there's more going on there. He starts talking in a funny way, wanting to know every detail. The insistence surprises you until you don't know why you are saying that, since I wanted to finish everything a few minutes earlier. But then you understand the reason for not being able to watch. She wants to open her heart, but is afraid of being judged. And then, suddenly, Elizabeth collapses and tells everything. The full story of how that guy distorted his memories until they seem unrecognizable. It all started 9 years ago, when Lisbeth was only 5 years old. Her father took her to the imperial palace, and like every lively child, she kept running. He warned her to be careful not to fall. But of course it happened. When she asked if she was okay, she said what was she doing, because she had her father's amulet with her. That coin that the first Lord Falkren used in battles. Basically, an element of the Falkren family is left wishes to those who use it. In the end, the two enter the palace. When they reach the Emperor, his father tells him to wait and read something, while he discusses serious problems with the king. Of course, the girl does not mind listening to old Daggerland, so she quickly gets bored. Instead of standing, he leaves without her noticing, and starts searching the palace garden, running through unknown corridors. But, of course, everything goes wrong, and she gets lost in that huge place. When despair strikes, his day gets even worse when he finds the branches of Brat. The third one, Prince Robin, the idiot looks at her, and thinks he is an intruder, since he had never seen her before. And since intruders should be executed, he thinks she's no different. One of the guards tries to warn that, by the way of her clothes, she must be the daughter of some guest. But the prince, being an idiot, is sending the guy to shut up. Then, showing how crazy he is, he says that he is looking for someone to test the sword skills. Without a second thought, she sends the men to take her. The guards try to argue, but it's useless. Elizabeth, terrified, runs away when the brat sends the servants after her. She is in a panic, she does not understand why they are running after her, and she starts screaming for help. Out of nowhere, someone leads her to a correct hidden room when Rudolph and his group pass by. The one who throws it is a small child, clearly Armik. The boy blocks the door, while Elizabeth tries to understand who is unknown. She demands to know what's going on, but the boy asks her to keep her voice down. She gets scared, but the boy says not to worry, that the guys who are so far behind her do not find her there, even terrified. She calms down with her assurance that she is safe, and that no one will pass that door. A while later, he peeks out, and confirms that everything is clean. Then he finally asks her what exactly she was trying to find. And so one of Lisbeth's wishes is fulfilled. She ends up in the garden with the boy next door. Ask if you can get some flowers, and he leaves. They are both there, enjoying each other's company, just good, joking. Suddenly, the boy perceives something, and pushes Alice Elizabeth behind the bushes, asking him to be hidden. It turns out that Robin only entered the garden, riding on a servant like a horse. He does not waste time, and is already starting to insult the child, basically saying that he is not even worthy of being there. Hide. Lisbeth listens to everything. But Robin doesn't even seem worried about Lisbeth's savior. Why don't you want to catch? He loves the girl and asks the boy if he saw anyone his age. Lisbeth, nervous. Panic in the hiding place, but the child lies that he did not see anyone like that. At first, Robin seems to believe it, but it doesn't take long. The little tyrant hits the child's face. Clearly don't buy the lie. Once again, our protagonist leads to the worst, proving that Reuben is the worst brother in the world. The brat was not time, and sends the guards who hold the heroic child. They hesitate, trying to talk to the little tyrant, but they end up giving in. After all, no one there wants to lose their salary because of morale. And so, the child is tied up, completely exposed as Robin starts to hit him with the help of the guards. The boy asks to stop, but Robin makes it clear that he will only stop when I tell him where the girl is. The beating continues. Meanwhile, hidden, Lisbeth cries, asking as someone as kind as she deserves. Before it gets worse, a bell rings far away. It's the brat's lunchtime. Deciding he has hid enough, Robin backs away, and sends the guards to leave. The three leaves without looking back, leaving the child fallen, everything destroyed. Worried, Elizabeth runs to him, and asks if he is okay, but the boy minimizes, and being that he is used to it. Still, instead of thinking about the pain itself, he asks her if she was injured. This is enough to end up with Elizabeth. She begins to cry, and the boy, surprised, wonders why she is crying. She says that anyone would cry to see the way he is treated. And he smiles, admitting that this is the first time someone has cried for him. Clearly, everyone does not give him the slightest ball. Feeling that she needs to return, the girl offers what is probably her most precious object. The father's amulet. It's the same thing that the child keeps in that chest years later. What did your father give as a lucky charm? The guy looks at the coin, half in doubt. Asks if she really wants to give it, as it is valuable. But she insists. His father said that if he used it, his wishes would come true. And as for the first time someone cares about him, he says that one of the wishes has already been fulfilled. She asks what I want, and he says that it is rare for someone to notice someone like him. Soon after, a servant appears and sees them, so they disappear. Back in the present, Elizabeth confesses that she never found out the name of that child. Hearing this, his head bows, because the girl from the imperial palace, who gave that amulet, was Lisbeth all the time. And now she is his girlfriend. This is a pure generation risk. Even now, she has a hard time believing, because in the future she knows exactly who Lisbeth will become. He himself who will finish it. It doesn't make sense. But Lisbeth goes on to explain that after giving the amulet, her father gave a large region and she received another. The same thing that he then gave her. Without hesitation, she takes off the amulet and shows it. Remember that he should still have his. He checks the code and actually takes the same amulet. The coins match perfectly, which proves that they were made from each other. He is excited, taken by the memories. Remember that every time I passed by Pereng, that coin brought peace. In a way of him, she was always on his side. And so, the two embrace. He is grateful not only for the amulet, but for being someone he really cared about. And again, thank you for noticing someone like him when no one else saw, but just when the moment calms down. Someone calls Lisbeth, remembering that it's time for the birthday party. They part a little awkwardly. Lisbeth admits that sharing that moment almost made her forget that it was her birthday. And when he comes out, something is banging on his head. It is wool. Then he comes back and asks her one last time she's with that guy. She does not hesitate. He calls the old woman nothing more than a reminder of his own stupidity, revealing that he lied and pretended to be the boy who saved her years ago. In another part of the Falkren's mansion, Bellin leaves defeated. His face says it all. He's angry. The fact that Rudolph can even conquer the crazy girl of his dreams. Jealousy grows to realize that the future he imagined is slipping away, but he refuses to accept. He says that Rudolph should have never taken the girl, that history should not have followed this, and now he is determined to ensure that there is no future for Rudolph. Only a legacy of failure and shame, while he, the supposed hero, shines in the center of the scene. Lisbeth begins to explain how she met the guy. It was at a party about a year ago. The flashback shows her surrounded by men. Everyone tries to ask for a dance, but she is not interested in any. For her, the only one who mattered was the boy she met in the imperial palace. She was already losing patience. It had been 8 years since she had seen him, and she still didn't know his name. I also couldn't hire a detective because it didn't overlap yet. Then any boy gave her a flower, no less than the old man. She asked who he was, saying that she was not interested in superficial guys. He replied that it was a little difficult, and asked her if she had forgotten who she was. She said it was the same person she met in the imperial garden when she was 5 years old, who played with her a little. When listening, Elizabeth was super happy, she even cried. She noticed something different, changed the color of her hair. The guy didn't even think twice, and made up a lie in time, saying that his hair was different from the rest of the family. That's why he painted red to end the rumors. When she asked what the real color was, he replied that he was the same as when they met in the garden. He said he was happy to see her again, and called her a distant cellmate. Elizabeth was completely surprised. Back in the present, she explains that she was so in love with the garden boy, that she left any boy, and his fool cheated on her. He says that since then he has begun to meet the old guys regularly. It's not a big deal, just once a month. Hearing this, our guy finds this old man tolerable. His face changes to pure anger, and the bride tells herself. He panicked, thinking she let him down. He confesses that he feels stupid for trusting the liar, and is delighted. He comforts her, saying not to worry. She doesn't want him to feel bad, but she can't stop thinking how the old man knew about the history of the imperial garden. While processing this, Elizabeth keeps trying to explain herself, saying I didn't want to fall in love with the wrong person. He understands, and tells her not to worry again, asking her to continue with the tea. She apologizes for the previous flare-up, and explains that she totally trusted him at the time. But the more time passed, the more clearly this fake Rudolph was suspicious. Then one day he asked the most important question. What did she give him the day they played in the garden? When he ran out of reaction, completely shocked, she insisted, asking if he really did not value the gift. To the point of not keeping it with him. I was speechless. Totally amazed by the question. But he didn't give up. He is shamelessly staying again. He says the opposite is true, that her gift meant the world to him, and that he cared for her with great affection ever since. Elizabeth says that from that day she asked directly about the gift, but he always deflected the topic. At one point, even Maya began to suspect him. He asked Elizabeth if she was sure a guy was who she said he was. Although time had passed, he did not get over the image of the child he remembered. Lispy Elizabeth admits that she had the same doubts. Amma suggests that if Bellum is a liar, the real child from his memories should still be out there. I propose a plan. He could infiltrate the palace disguised as a maid to look for clues, as they were where they met. Lisbeth enjoys the idea, but is afraid to give all the responsibility to Mia, the maid. However, he is more than ready for the mission. Hearing all this, our guy is amazed. I didn't even know Mia was spying on Lesbizabeth. Seeing him locked up, Lesbizabeth apologizes again. But he says he's fine, he's not angry. Honestly, he's got fucking patience. After hearing the whole story, Rudolph asks if Amaya was the only person Lispy Isaboth told about their meeting, and she confirms. Then he thinks that if someone else may have overheard the conversation, but Lispa thinks not. He explains that Mia has been his bodyguard since childhood then. If I had a traitor nearby, I would have noticed him. This makes the guy reconsider his assessment. The maid is much more competent than he thought. But the problem remains. If only Maya was the only one who knew about the meeting. As Belaine found out, let Lisbeth Sabbath continue. She says that when Mia entered the palace, and saw the gold coin that his girlfriend had given him, she began to suspect that Prince Rudolph might be the boy from her past. And when he met our test guy, this suspicion was assured. The coin was all I needed to recognize him. Then, without hesitation, he accepted the request. The protagonist thinks it was too fast, she could have thought better. As for the old man, Elizabeth made him deliver me a letter that ended everything. Made delivered personally. Billing did not welcome the news that he would never be able to find Elizabeth again. He was clearly shocked, but Mia made it clear that there would be no more encounters with that asshole. The guy obviously didn't expect that, but Mia still pressed him to answer the only question that could prove that he was the child from Elizabeth's memories. What had she given him at that moment? Stunned, he did what he knows best, lied, saying that she broke down. Maya pretends that this is the right answer, but she knows that it is full of lies. And so, it is clear that it is a complete scam. This makes our guy think, Belen seems to know part of the story, but definitely not everything. Then comes a theory. Perhaps the old man was at the palace that day, watching Elizabeth and Rudolph playing. Maybe he saw her give something to Rudolph, but he never found out what it was. This would explain why he always escaped the question. And when Amaya gave one last chance, she just played a random answer in an attempt to escape. There are still some questions left. But the explanation sticks for now. What matters most is to understand why the hell the old man was trying to stay with Lisp from the beginning. Then he speeds up. It must be due to the military power of the Fulcrontes family. They are one of the strongest royal houses, and having their support would increase Bellum's prestige. Marrying Elizabeth would mean getting family support, and it makes sense. The guy remembers reading that after the Emperor's death, Bellum had lost Fulcrontes on his side. And thanks to this support, he destroyed the Baldique Empire without much difficulty. Now he wonders if Belimer's original plan was to use the ism to get rid of him. And maybe she was just a cog in his strategy. But before he goes into crisis, he hears Lisp crying, thinking that he must be disappointed with her because he is so naive. The guy, by thousands, says it's not true. He's not mad at her, he's mad at the bastard who moved her memories. This seems to calm Elizabeth, who recomposes. Excited by his words, Rudolph tells him to forget that idiot and enjoy the birthday. And just like that, the two of them leave the room. While on their way to the party, they find Locke surprised. Everyone looks shocked. Some guests comment on how beautiful Elizabeth is, but most do not understand why she would have a tyrant like Rudolph. Then it accelerates. No one knew about the engagement. Apparently, the Emperor decided not to announce yet. His girlfriend says he needs to greet the guests, and he lets her go. He knows that most people hate him, so he decides not to waste his time. Meanwhile, Elizabeth greets everyone at the party. Some guys still try their luck with her, even with the engagement, but they don't even give her the ball she already has. Well, then the music starts and the couples dance slowly. It's a super romantic moment. The guy watches and realizes that he has no idea how this works. It was never part of these parties, so dancing is something totally new. Everything you know comes from 300 years in the future, and nothing adapts to the rhythm or the atmosphere of the current time. If someone asks to dance, he will probably make up any excuse. While getting lost, a strangely familiar-sounding song plays. That's when Miss Elizabeth approaches and casually asks if she will ask him to dance. She gets scared and admits that she has never danced in her life. Elizabeth realizes that this was what was bothering her, but honestly, she doesn't care. Instead, she asks to be his partner at the dance, the first one by the way. And although he is clearly caught by surprise, the girlfriend assures him not to think too much. Note that he is tense, but he says to just follow his rhythm, and there we see Elizabeth slowly guiding the lost prince through the steps. His moment begins to attract attention, and it is not surprising that only the hatred that already grows against him. His reputation is zero. Everyone still wonders why someone like Lady Elizabeth would choose a tyrant like him. In the middle of the crowd, one couple looks especially disgusting. While they are dancing, this couple deliberately collides with them to unbalance. They pretend to be involuntarily, nor does it help to get up and go well. The sudden accident destroys the guy's confidence, especially with the whispers that he does not deserve Elizabeth. As her head sinks, Elizabeth remains calm and offers a second chance. As he sinks into doubts as to whether someone like her could be with a guy who can't dance, the painful truth emerges. Elizabeth is elegant and beautiful, while he is still excluded from the palace. The laughter of the guests continues. And even his parents seem to judge him. He already knows that his father clearly does not like it. The mother was polite, but it was difficult to know what she thinks. And even they comment on the lack of path in the dance. Seeing her defeated expression, Elizabeth begins to worry. The guy wonders if his legacy will only be that of a cruel emperor of the history books. Before she sinks deeper, Lisbeth as a bishop calls reality, and remembers that at the dance she has to look into the eyes of her partner. The words seem to anchor him, and he apologizes. As she was looking at him the whole time, he finds it only fair to return. And then he takes the lead, and starts dancing to a real rhythm. Now they move in sync, and even the guests realize that the dance is finally working. Even his father, who was critical all night, admits that it is impressive that a beginner follows him so well. Usually, who knows how to dance potential clients, but this time Prince Rudolph leads the beat. And so, public opinion begins to change. Even the same wife whose husband tried to knock them down looked at him like he was the guy. At this point, it's clear that he really enjoys it. For Lisbeth, it may be the best birthday of her life. The scene changes and now we see the guy catching his breath sitting down. The truth is that he never said he was a good dancer, so being tired makes sense. But still, he is proud that he did not humiliate the bride during the party. Liz Babbitt also seems satisfied, saying that she didn't even realize if it was her first time. But he gives her all the credit. Noticing her tiredness, she will take a drink. That's when it reflects. For a long time, he thought that the dances they learned 300 years in the future would never be useful. But by calming down and thinking, the instrument and the rhythm were not so different, because the compass and the steps seemed familiar. He realizes that, perhaps, over the centuries, dancing has changed only slightly. And with this small success, gain a little confidence. If you did that, changing the story doesn't seem so far away anymore. As much as they talk about him as a tyrant, he is determined to change the narrative and create a future where he lives happily with Louise Bibit. While she is immersed in thoughts, the last person she expects appears. None other than Mary Douglas Fawkes, father of Elizabeth. The man approaches and apologizes for not being received earlier, but the prince turns the game and says that he is the one who should apologize. He asks if Elizabeth's father has anything important to say. Meanwhile, the scene changes again, and Elizabeth is still impressed by Rudolph's transformation at the dance. I didn't expect it to be so serious in the middle of the party. Of course, she is caught up in the rise of our guy, more and more in love. Running with the promised drink, he comes across something crazy. Marcato has just suggested a duel between him and Prince Rudolph. That's right, the old man just challenged a 10-year-old boy to a duel. The scene jumps to our guy in front of himself, with none other than Marco Douglas from the Fulcrontes family. Technically it's a workout, but the old man makes it clear that it's like an improvement session. Elizabeth's father throws a wooden sword at her, and for the first time in his life, Rudolph actually holds a sword. She is heavier than I expected. While still digesting this, Mark realizes he's a little lost, and asks if there's something wrong, but Rudolph says it's okay. But he keeps noticing that Marco's wooden sword is getting worn out. Then the old man reveals that he has already used that sword in thousands of training blows. Well, at least that's what he says. Our guy just understands that he is almost dying. Elizabeth and her mother seem nervous. And Rudolph too. Because the pressure coming from Marcos is absurd. He begins to think whether all this is because the old man does not approve of his engagement to Elizabeth. Then his imagination flies. Convinced that God's father is furious because the emperor set up their engagement. He thinks this whole training excuse is just a setup to kill him, and pretend it was an accident. Until she realizes the old man's old posture, but before she freaks out, Elizabeth stands in front of her father, and prevents the fight from starting. She tries to make them understand the obvious. Mark is the mayor of the Fulcrontes Empire. To face him is to ask to die. Still, Rudolph is not retiring. He knows he's fucked, but he also knows he can't escape. Mark sends his daughter out of his way, but she refuses, while the family basically negotiates her murder. He finally gives Rudolph a chance. If he can hit a single blow with the wooden sword, he wins. Mark asks if it's fair. And Rudolph already draws what the old man means. He thinks that the child has no chance to touch him. Rudolph accepts the challenge without complaining, and the duel begins. He remembers that he never had any formal fencing training. The only experience comes from secretly watching the Scorpio Knight's palace training, and trying to copy what he saw. Just that. All his talent with the sword is just imitation, and yet he believes that it will be enough to surpass the best swordsman of the Fulcrontes family. But this trust is destroyed in time. The old man drops it without moving. Mark gives another chance, and Rudolph tries again, but nothing. Give one more, but our guy's aura is negative with every attempt. After seeing the bride being humiliated, Elizabeth begs for her father to stop. And it is at this moment of total defeat that Rudolph understands the difference between them. It is the distance between the spoiled prince, who spent the day sending the servants, and the demonic warrior who accumulates military achievements. Even knowing 300 years into the future, he can't strike a blow. It's destroyed. Mark confronts him and asks if that's all he has. He says that with this strength, he will never be able to protect what really matters. But these words illuminate something in our guy. He picks up the wooden sword again. Elizabeth tries to stop, but her father keeps his mouth shut. He reflects on his destiny. In the original story, he never got over Lisby and died at 25. But things are different now. He managed to play the role of the villain grade 10, and the future is uncertain. He could die at any moment. And that means Lisby's life is also at risk. Then he realizes that it's not just strength. Mark doesn't want to kill him. I want to see if you have what it takes to protect your daughter. Knowing this, he decides to fight to the end. And there he goes on the attack again. This time, the old man tries to block the blow, but Rudolph's wooden sword crosses the guard of the old man's disbelief. The emperor of the Fulcrontes family does not believe what the boy did. And honestly, he is not alone. Everyone in the room is open. Meanwhile, the story cuts to our unconscious guy, peacefully sleeping in bed, as if nothing had happened. But elsewhere, Elizabeth is not at all relaxed. She wants to know if her father really needed to go that far. The old man explains on the tin. Given Rudolph's condition, it was inevitable to go through this test. After that training, it was clear, Rudolph has no physical or technical strength. It's not even medium. But Elizabeth doesn't accept that. He says he only is because he was always ignored. Her father is already one step ahead. He shows the broken wooden sword, and points out that it was not an accident. Rudolph targeted that weak spot several times on purpose. It was a calculated risk, betting that the sword was going to break under pressure. But what really matters is that Rudolph realized the poor quality of the weapon during the fight, and took advantage of it. Hearing this, Elizabeth begins to understand her father's side. For the first time, the old man smiles. He says that Rudolph is disgusting, but over time, he can become a deadly weapon. The fact that this beginner has managed to make the sword say stronger excited for a duel is not something you see every day. The scene changes, and now we are with Lisbeth sitting next to our unconscious Mick. She wakes up still feeling the pain of Mark's beating. But at least she has a pillow on the girlfriend's lap, definitely. Still, she's a little panicked at the thought of whether Mark will come into the room and see them that way. You probably really want to kill him. But then he asks Elizabeth if she managed to earn her father's respect. Flashback scene. Mark looks genuinely pleased with the result. He thinks that Rudolph has the potential to become a capable king, and praises his strategic intelligence. The old man even wonders if he is being treated directly at the palace. He confesses that he will not worry about his daughter now, but also about his son, indicating that he accepted the Mick. Elizabeth already understands what her father means, and seals the thing by asking him to be next to Rudolph. Back to the present. Elizabeth looks happier than ever, proud that the guy finally got his dad's approval. The two of you have a nice moment. Elizabeth thanks you for everything Rudolph did, while he silently thanks her that she is for him. Meanwhile, at Scorpio's palace, Maya is furious. She wanted to be at Elizabeth's party and see the surprise gift that the M had prepared. Remember the moment well. Rudolph asked to prepare a sea water, a beautiful stone that Elizabeth was going to love. Back in Rudolph's room, the mood is still sweet and calm. While enjoying the moment, the guy quietly apologizes to Maya. You know you can't give Lisp the gift yet, mainly because you're enjoying spending time with your wife now. 2 weeks after Lisp's chaotic anniversary, Rudolph finally delivers the gift. While it looks, comment on it beautiful that it is and thank you. He gave a ring of sea water. After seeing her effort, Elizabeth promises to keep the ring for a lifetime. Maya, as always the clown, begins to compliment the ring and the autology by saying that she could only have been chosen by a genius maid. Great way to show off. Rudolph doesn't even give a pen. He apologizes for not giving his birthday, explaining that there was no time. Alice doesn't care, and says she didn't even have to apologize. Of course, the two are much closer now. They both admit how miserable we felt in the week they couldn't see each other because Rudolph was stuck at work, and now they are sitting together, daydreaming about each other as if they had spent years apart. Meanwhile, Mia realizes that she is the third wheel. Seeing that she is completely invisible to the two lovers, he clears his throat and pushes them back to reality. When they return, she asks a question and asks what Rudolph plans for the future. He says he has something to discuss and needs your help. But first, you need to confirm something. The guy starts visiting if anyone listens. Mia tries to calm him down by saying that she doesn't have to be so paranoid, but inside she hopes that the enemies will listen. Because what she will say is that they should know. If Mia said that everything is clean, then it's probably really. Decide to stop looking and get straight to the point. He explains that he is thinking about combining with someone in the royal family. Which is crazy, since everyone in the palace practically hates him. The goal is to make an alliance with one of the 3 oldest brothers. Finally, we have the profile of the boys. First, the eldest, Prince Frederick, rich and charismatic, is good at all, politics, diplomacy and internal affairs. He has the support of the central nobility, and is practically untouchable. So Prince Oscar II, despite being the son of the second queen, has serious power with the military aristocracy. In times of war, he has more influence than Frederick. And last, Robin, the third, who is basically not at all, but has a strong connection because of the girlfriend, daughter of the Anderson family. One of the most respected houses. Due to the commitment, Robin has the support of the Western border forces and control of the main trade routes. That is, he has no skill of his own, but his wife leads the team. The 3 are in contention for the throne and are trying to win the support of the Fulcrantes family, which has the strongest army in the empire. But out of nowhere, Rudolph becomes a great competitor because he married Lizzie. Now he has the advantage. Before, he had no real power, but since he took the bride, he became a major player in the race for the throne. Because of the support he has now, the whole power dynamic between the princes may change, depending on what Rudolph decides to do. Elizabeth attracts in time. She understands that if any of the 3 princes is in alliance with Rudolph, it will be practically a free path to the throne. And Rudolph plans to use this commitment to strengthen his position with a strategic alliance. But then Rudolph lets out an unexpected bombshell. He says he doesn't mind becoming emperor. What he really wants is protection. His whole plan is to make it clear to everyone in the palace that he has no intention of competing for the throne. That's why I was hunting spies before. It all makes sense now. If he has spies lying around, they will pass the information to the bosses. And these guys can try to approach Rudolph to form an alliance. But if Mia is right, and no one is listening, then she needs someone to start spreading this idea. That's where Mia comes in. He asks if he can count on her for that, and she confirms that spreading rumors is her specialty. With this, the plan is in motion. Rudolph soon notices a change in Lei Baz's expression, sorry for involving his surname in the plans. But the girl is not even upset about it. What really bothers her is what she wants for the future, since she is not behind the throne. He has a long break before he responds. He says that his original goal was simple, he just wanted to live quietly in a small territory inside, but things changed. After being poisoned, he realized that this peaceful dream was no longer realistic. Now he wants something else. Strength, power to defend and protect the one you love. Amaya comments that what she wants won't be easy, but as he says that, Alice Babber looks at him closely. The look in his eyes is the same as he did when he challenged his father on his birthday. Without hesitation, she says that everything will work out, she totally believes in him, and says that he can achieve anything he wants. To hear this clearly means a lot to him. He really got a real partner. The scene ends and we go to the Zodiac Palace. There, Mark, the father of Lisbeth Saber and head of the House of Fulcrontes, arrives at the Emperor's palace. He makes a respectful bow and thanks the Emperor. The Emperor seems a little surprised to receive so much respect from someone like that. Curious, the Emperor listens while Mark explains that the matter is Prince Rudolph and his daughter. Mark remembers that the two are only 14 years old, and that next year he will enter the Imperial Academy together. Until then, she proposes that Rudolph stay at the Fulcrontes mansion to strengthen their relationship. Man, the guy is acting like our Bing man. But what he really wants is for Rudolph to be treated like people. Why do they treat him like garbage in the palace? In addition, he hopes to train the child so that he can protect his daughter. But the plan is quickly destroyed because the Emperor simply refuses. Mark runs out of reaction and asks for an explanation. But the Emperor has already decided. For him, Rudolph is still a prince of the Baltic Empire. The Emperor still throws out the excuse that if Rudolph was sent, his mother was going to be devastated. But no one buys it. Because it is clear that she only calls herself. And Mark knows that, but he also knows that he can't go against the Emperor's word. Then he offers a deal. He suggests that Elizabeth might be close to Rudolph, asks the daughter to have access to the Imperial Palace as well. Mark hates the idea of sending his daughter to such a cruel place, but he thinks it's worth it. He will not give up on someone like Rudolph, not when the child has so much potential, and will soon be a part of the family. He believes that Elizabeth is strong enough to survive the palace, and that Rudolph's training will not be a problem. Mark confirms. He says that he had the opportunity to fight Rudolph. This clearly surprises the Emperor, who does not believe that the youngest and weakest son had the courage to face the demon of Obsidian War. Now Mark is sure. This caught the Emperor's attention. Despite the fact that Rudolph's mother was a lover, the Emperor still has feelings for his son. Mark assures the Emperor that he doesn't have to worry about the way Rudolph is developing. Of course, one day the child may even outgrow it. The Emperor says that he has always believed in Rudolph's potential from the very beginning. Mark notices a change in his expression. He doesn't look like a proud father. He seems more like a man pretending to care about his son's success. Why, if he really thought Rudolph had potential this time? Why didn't you train him? I could have turned him into a strong gentleman, someone who would help protect the royal family. As Mark leaves the palace, he can't help but wonder. The Emperor had several possibilities to help his son, but decided to do nothing. The guy is so shit that he never paid attention to Rudolph, while Elizabeth's father walks away. The Emperor is calling him. Remember that since you are letting Elizabeth stay in the palace, you now owe her a favor. Cut it to the next scene. Mark is angry outside the palace. It is absolutely angry that Rudolph has been treated so much. The fact that a child stays his own father is absurd. Now he fully understands that all the pain Rudolph has gone through was the Emperor's fault, but he will not let this go. Because Mark has plans for him. Meanwhile, in the garden of Scorpio's palace, Rudolph and Elizabeth spend time together. But Rodolphe realizes that it's getting late, and that his father may be worried. Elizabeth says well that everything is fine, because she will live in the Scorpio palace from now on. The guy gets scared with that. He is tired of people making plans for their life without even warning. He turns to Maya and asks if she knew. Maid, completely without understanding. Try to calm him down by saying that Lispy's room has been cleaned and is ready, but Rudolph is not angry about that. He's angry that no one told him. Maya tries to calm down, explaining that it was going to be a surprise. Even Lisa thought she already knew. He apologizes for the confusion, and Rudolph, still upset. Leave it there. You can't be angry with your beloved. The scene cuts to present boss, the Robin, enjoying the meal. The guards arrive and warn that he has a meeting scheduled for 6 in the morning. They ask what clothes he wants to wear. Robin doesn't even tell them to choose, and they warn that if something like this is stupidly asked again, they will be killed. The guards are terrified. Robin changes the subject to Rudolph. Ask if there's any new gossip about the half-brother. It's a bit outside because you only find out that Rudolph is looking for a girlfriend. I laughed at the situation, joking Rudolph, saying that no one wants to marry such a loser. But one of the guards soon calms him down, saying that Rudolph is already engaged to the daughter of the emperor of the Falcontes family. Surprised, Robin asks who the Falcontes family is, and the siren explains that it is Mark Douglas. Robin gets angry. He plays a plate full of food on the poor guard, although it's not his fault. The news moves too much with his ego. Do not think that Rudolph managed to catch someone from such an influential family. You know that the support of that noble house will take advantage of Rudolph's position, and will not let it happen. Robin swears that he will crush Rudolph and end the engagement. Cost what it costs. The day starts well for our boy, since from now on he will wake up to the face of the beloved Liz. She officially moved to the palace since yesterday, and will be for a year. The two go out for a quiet walk. They got lost. Both of them don't even try to hide the obsession. Rudolph does not believe in her beauty. For him, Lisbeth is a living masterpiece. You don't even think you caught him. Lisbeth is not late. He is equally in love. To think that she must be the luckiest girl in the world to have a guy like him. To her, Rudolph looks like a statue carved by the gods. Even though he is royalty, after all, he is still a 14-year-old boy. While he and Maya argue because of the carrots, the brothers, the boss and the palace staff keep watch. Do you remember the days when this child sent any cook who dared to put carrots in his food? Now he can handle Mayan's jokes like it's nothing. Since the poisoning attempt, it is clear that the child has changed. And then the unthinkable happens. A lispy smile changes everything. Out of nowhere, grab a carrot and eat. The servants hacked. The applause explodes in the room as if it were a national holiday. If I had proof of Lisp's power, that was it. Everyone in the palace now knows with his by his side, the child will be fine. The boss sighs with relief, silently thanking Lispy for saving his carrots and his job. Since Maya has been taken in a way little taken to any employee who has dubious intentions against the couple, Rudolph asks if Lispy wants to take a walk. There is a place you want to show, but if she is tired. Very well, I jump. Elizabeth, however, is far from tired. She practically freaks out from the excitement, and insists that they leave. Rudolph has a flea behind his ear if the request was strange, but Liz is practically melting with happiness. Liz of our guy is just W. In a short time, they are already outside the palace walls. By the looks of Lispy, he recognizes the place in time. 9 years ago. It was there that they met for the first time. The same garden, the same bushes where he hid from Robin. They play like children, laugh like children. After a while, they settle down in the same place as before. After indulging in nostalgia, Rudolph thinks it's time to return. He says that Maya has probably prepared tea, and the two start walking back. Then Lispy realizes that she forgot the umbrella. Our gentleman immediately offers to look for her.